Hi guys, I just wanted to finally do my part two of my series of recaps for Jessica Jones season one. Right now, I'm just going to be giving you guys an overview of episodes 5 through 8. So episode 5 starts out with after Jessica reveals it starts out throughout episode 5. There's some flashbacks as to her friendship with Trish Walker and how she's the one who convinced, and because she has so much enthusiasm about the idea of being a superhero, that she tries to get her on board for the idea of being a superhero. There's even a ref, especially since she's bored at her office job and she has these like superpowers of super strength and hasn't mastered flying. So she even has like a the costume from the comic books. Jessica Jones was known as Jewel before he's that was her superhero alias before she was taking control of Kilgrave, and and they and Trish even name drops the superhero alias of Jewel. And of course, Jessica thinks like the costume looks ridiculous, and she would consider the idea of doing it. And after saving a girl from being run over by a taxi, she starts to warm up to the idea. And after she saves a mugger from being beat up, of course, that's when she gets encountered when she first meets Kilgrave, and he and basically Kilgrave's immediately like attracted to her and starts using her powers on her immediately. And you realize in the flashback that Malcolm was the mugger who was being not the mugger, the person who was being mugged, who was saved by Jessica for being mugged. And that it turns out that he was on, that Malcolm was only became a junkie because of the fact that because Kilgrave convinced him to become a junkie just so he would have another means of having to come back to Malcolm, and not in case he couldn't rely on in case Kilgrave couldn't rely on his mind control powers. So part of it was just being a junkie, part of it was just like his mental suggestion. And so even the and Officer Simpson decides to follow Jessica along, and as well as Trish, as part of a sting operation to capture Kilgrave, or just drug him with the anesthesia and then hermit take him to a sealed room where he wouldn't be able to use his abilities. And of course, there's like some comedic back and forth and some tension between Jessica and Simpson, because Simpson is now officially in a relationship with Trish, and she's being like an overprotective, friend slash foster sister. So the plan works up until the fact that everybody gets jumped by these bodyguards, who turns out that Kilgrave had paid off from a security firm, because he realized that somebody might got the drop on him and use the anesthesia on him to nullify his powers. So he had bodyguards around, of their own accord, that he's paying them in case that happens. And so they eventually foil that. They basically why so even it's basically why Kilgrave is able to escape, or the bodyguards get him back. Um, then episode 6, the storyline takes a bit of a detour, because Luke Cage comes to Jessica because she needs him to look for the brother of a friend of Luke's, because she has evidence as to what happened to his wife, like what happened, like how his evidence about his wife's murder. And of course Jessica's guilt ridden, because she knows that, because she's the one that killed um Reyna, Luke's wife, while under Kilgrave's control. Because you find out later that he was for that Kilgrave dig up like a metal box containing a thumb drive in a construction site, Jessica, and then Reyna, I guess, knew where it was. And then after the three collected the box, Kilgrave had Jessica kill her in order to tie up loose ends. Um, of course, they end up like, of course, like the brother, of course, they had to recover the woman's brother, Luke's friend. Her brother had like owes money to loan sharks, so it turns out he was hiding out in he was growing like his he was in this warehouse like growing all this weed and wanting to sell it, so he had the money to pay back the loan sharks. But Luke and Jessica beat the crap out of the loan sharks to get the brother back. They get Luke gets evidence as to who the driver was that night, of who drove the bus, that actually ran over Kilgrave. The guy's name was like Charles Walker, and Luke decides to get revenge and seek him out and actually kill him. And of course, that's what forces Jessica to stop Luke and admit to being responsible for Raina's death. And he takes it about as well as you can expect. In spite of the fact that yes, Jessica was under Kilgrave's control, it was the fact that she lied to him for so long about him, but slept with him several times, and basically I think it's just a nail in the coffin, as far as I can tell, for their relationship. Episode 7 is when Jessica finds out that Hope had actually paid off one of her prison inmates to beat the crap out of her, because it turns out that Kilgrave impregnated Hope when he raped her. So, and she doesn't want to have the baby. She doesn't want the baby, and so eventually she gets her hands on a pill to abort the baby, and Hogarth stands by and guards her. And also throughout episode 7, Jessica comes out of the bar just completely drunk and feeling guilt-ridden about the whole situation with Luke Cage, to the point where she drunkenly goes to Hogarth's wife, who doesn't want to sign the divorce papers with Jerry Hogarth. Wendy's Hogarth's wife. So Jessica goes, drunkenly threatens her to sign the papers, and basically drops her in front of the train tracks and almost gets her killed. And as a result, Wendy decides to blackmail Jared Hogarth with information that Hogarth bribed one of the jurors during one of her cases in order to win a trial, and says she wants 75% of her assets as a result of being threatened, or else she goes public with the information. So that's one side story that's going on. At the same time, Jessica goes back to her apartment and finds one of her neighbors, Ruben, dead in her bed, because Kilgrave convinced the guy to kill herself by slashing his neck, and horrified about the whole thing, Jessica decides that she feels responsible for his death, that she decided to take the fall for her murder, take the fall and say that he murdered Ruben just so they can put him in the Supermax prison, in hopes that, as part of a trap to lure out Kilgrave. And of course, Malcolm's against the idea, Trish is against the idea, meanwhile Officer Simpson is seeking out Kilgrave, because he actually bought Jessica's old childhood home and has been like fixing it up to look exactly like Jessica's childhood home. He brought in like posters, all the same toys, items, etc. And so while that's happening, Trish and Malcolm decide to dump Ruben's body, but Jessica finds out what's going on and recovers Ruben's body and brings the decapitated head to the NYPD, and tries to convince the cop and basically provides a really bad fake confession as to why the homicide detective should put her in prison, the Supermax. But the whole plan backfires because Kilgrave ends up showing up at the precinct and threatening to make the cops all shoot one another unless Jessica comes with him. And it turns out, in a sick, twisted way, Kilgrave says that after the bus accident, he realized how much he was in love with Jessica, and he doesn't want to use his powers to control her. He wants to win over. He wants to earn his affections. He wants to earn her affections. He wants to make Jessica fall in love with him, and not rely on his powers. And not wanting to, of course, risk the cops' lives, she decides to start living with Kilgrave in her old childhood home for like a couple of days. And she finds out that on the thumb drive that she helped Kilgrave recover was experiments that his parents experimented on him, and that's how he got his abilities. And he blames that on. He says that that's the excuse he has for why he's the way he is. And so, I guess at this point, like, Kilgrave's relying on like Stockholm syndrome to kind of win Jessica's affections. But um, but then, like, of course, there's a hostage situation in which Jessica tries to be like a moral compass for Kilgrave, and they use their his mind control abilities to end the hostage situation. And he just felt like he just complains about how it was a waste of energy, and how it's like, oh, I can't be a hero without you. It's like, she says you shouldn't need me around to do that. And it's like, to do that. And he just decide, and of course, and also goes on these rants about how he never actually raped, and how she never actually like raped her, just because, and his excuse is that he doesn't know like when he's using his mind control powers and when he's just trying to talk to somebody about asking somebody to do what he wants naturally. So, in long story short, she's able to, while staying with Kilgrave and trying to break down his barriers, make recordings on her cell phone to send over to Hogarth. And also, she's able to successfully drug him with the anesthesia and get him out of the house. And of course, Simpson shows up with his old army buddies wanting to take out Kilgrave, but which prompts her to actually fly away with Kilgrave to a secluded location. And then, of course, a nosy neighbor from Jessica's childhood shows up with a bag, and it turns out the bag unfortunately has a bomb that Simpson had placed in the house earlier to take out Kilgrave, and it ends up like knocking him out. His fate is unknown, and the episode kind of pretty much ends on that note. So basically, my thoughts on it is that I feel like there are times where it just feels like this series maybe shouldn't be like, doesn't need necessarily be like 13 episodes, and it feels like just from this chunk of episode it starts to get a little long in the tooth. I'm still enjoying this series. But it's just sort of, still enjoying the series. But I guess they're just doing this as a way to sort of like explore multiple character storylines, and as also you learn more of like learn more about Jessica's backstory, learn more of Kilgrave's backstory, and I guess you also learn more about how that the Walkers ended up taking in Jessica when her parents were killed in a truck accident. Jessica's biological parents and a little brother, and it turns out that Trish Walker's mom was a stage mom who would physically abuse her and basically forced her into show business, and also treated Jessica poorly. And even in episode 7, she approaches Trish's mom and just tells them, as a result, to stand by the restraining order and to stay away from and to stay away from them as a means of trying to tie up loose ends. She also tries to reach out to Luke and say, "Look, I'm just trying to make things right. I don't expect you to forgive me. I'm making sure the right people get what they deserve," because Luke actually has left town after the revelation of Jessica killing Reyna. I don't know. It's been pretty much like a mixed bag so far. It's definitely starting to pick up some pace, especially from like 6 on, with the whole Kilgrave playing back into the picture, and I definitely like David Tennant as Kilgrave. He's definitely kind of this like he's kind of like this sick person, but it's like he does seem like kind of like he has this like weird charm and almost kind of like and weird charm and almost like easy, somewhat like easygoing personality when he's not like being pissing comical personality when it's a little bit hard to describe it. A little bit hard to describe, but just sort of like I guess affably evil. I guess is like how they would describe the trope on how do this how are they it's how they would describe the trope on tvtropes.org. But I mean it's sort of it's a bit of a mixed bag so far. It's had like comedic moments, especially with the arguing back and forth between Jessica and Simpson, because as a protective foster sister, she does not approve of him dating Trish. But overall, it's been a mixed bag. It's definitely been getting better, especially with 7 and 8, and helping the series pick up speed. And I'm looking forward to see where this goes. So that's my thoughts on episodes 5 through 8. I'm definitely gonna try to finish the rest of the series this week. I'm also gonna have reviews on coming up soon. Reviews on The Big Short and Sisters. Those are 2 movies I got to see sneak previews for earlier. I'm just waiting until it's closer to their respective release dates, just so I don't have to worry about copyright claims. And of course, I'm going to be doing a review of Star Wars over the weekend. One that's spoiler free and then one that's spoiler filled. So be on the lookout for that. If you haven't watched my preview, and I'll put a link. If you haven't watched my previous review, I'll have a review of episodes 1 through 4 for Jessica Jones, and if you like this video, just like, share, and subscribe. If there's anything I didn't talk about, feel free to leave it in the comments down below. And I will talk to you guys later. Take care.